We're back with the former mayor of Beavercreek, Brian Jarvis, also retired defense contractor. And what we want to ask now is why pursue an earned income tax at this point? There are those that say, we've gone without one for 40 years. What do we need one now for?
Yes, and again, that's gotten us into trouble. Again, when the city was incorporated back in 1980, it was put into our charter that unlike other cities in Ohio, Beavercreek City could not have an income tax without the people voting on it. And that was a very, very smart thing to do. It worked well initially. Having an income tax when you're a bedroom community just makes no sense. If you have no business, no infrastructure, nothing to collect, you're really just charging your own people on residents more taxes. Since the 2000s, 2010, now in 2020 going forward, we are a robust economic driver, not just in this region, but in Ohio. And as things grow, there's more and more burden being placed just on the backs of property owners. 3/4 of the jobs in Beavercreek are held by more than 3/4 held by non-residents who work here. They contribute to wear and tear on the streets. They use our police service, our safety. Their businesses wouldn't do as well if not for the safety in this region and the condition of the roads, the commerce. Their contribution to this would help lower the costs on Beavercreek residents. And so for a lot of reasons, both financial and just plain common sense, it makes sense that all of the users of a service help pay for the service. And this will help every Beavercreek property owner's taxes be a little bit lower as a community and benefit the whole city.
When it comes to the earned income tax and the decision to pursue it, can you talk about the research that was done to arrive at this conclusion?
Right. Fortunately, we weren't the first down the chute. There are 242 other cities that have done this. This is not new. All of our businesses already have their payroll systems designed with income taxes into them because they have non-residents who work here. They got to collect for that. We actually reviewed over 200 different communities' income tax ordinances to see what they used. Most of them are very, very common, just boilerplate things that they used, templates of the other. But there were some that were unique, and we pared that down to the ones that had some unique, very good features. In this region, we went out to different tax offices. We went to the city of Xenia. We went to the city of Centerville. We went to Riverside. We went to Huber Heights. We went to Oakwood. We went to Trotwood around here, Vandalia. We even went beyond this community to talk to different tax administrators in the city of Mason, in the city of Monroe, in a small village down in Brown County, the village of Mount Orem. We went down there. They had some very unique things in their tax ordinances that we liked. And so we put all these together. After reviewing these, we even had a chance to talk to different municipal tax attorneys, because there were a couple of times we started heading down a path of wanting to do something that wasn't quite legal. And we spent a few months of wasted time, but it was good knowledge for us. So we did a lot of research. We used their best practices. We listened to our residents and what they said they wanted to see. Now, unfortunately, some residents want 100% of what they want, otherwise they won't support something. And that's always a losing game. That's always a bad idea. But we looked around to see what did other cities do that would satisfy the concerns of our community. And if we can hit most of them, while still allowing the city to function and not go further into debt like it is, with a backlog of projects, then we did. And so we used those ideas, and we put all those ideas together in this one tax package. And we think this is the best one you'll find of any community around here. And I can tell you that no other community in recent decades has instituted and offered a tax package while agreeing to reduce city residents' property taxes. That combination is almost unheard of. There's only been 2 cases I've seen in the past 30 years in this region, in the Montgomery and Greene counties, where that has been done. And so we did a lot of research on this. There are some things that had to be in there due to the Ohio Revised Code. The legislature requires much of what's in the tax code to be there, and so that is in there. But where we had latitude, we instituted that in this tax code for the betterment of our community.
Okay. We know talk a little bit about the impact of not getting this earned income tax passed. What would happen to property taxes 2 and 3 years down the road, and what this city might look like, compare and contrast with a city that didn't get their earned income tax passed.
Right. Well, the challenge that the city has right now is maintaining the level of quality that it has. As an example, there was a property tax passed just a couple of years ago for maintaining streets. It must have been 3 years ago for maintaining streets. And the first year it was passed, the city then was able to maintain over 13 miles of repaving the city streets. Well, now we're 3 years later, and that property tax can only maintain 9.5 miles because of the buying power decreasing. As we go on, the city will have to put new levies on the ballot, and those are very expensive. People are concerned because they just got their new property valuations in the mail, and we're talking about some huge increases here. My property increased in value by 17%. I met one lady last week, or this past weekend, whose property valuation increased 61%. Now it's going to average out to, I think, about 16–17%. But in Beavercreek, we have huge property increases. With people fleeing the inner cities and coming to the suburbs, we're going to see that for the foreseeable future. This is going to be tremendous property valuation increases, and as new property tax efforts come up, they get applied to the higher property valuations. That's going to cost residents more and more money. Years ago, before 2013, the state of Ohio used to subsidize portions of property tax levies. They subsidized 12.5% of them for agreement. After 2013, today, they no longer do that. And so residents today have to pay for 100% of the levies they pass. This is going to get very, very expensive. As of today, the property taxes needed to fully fund current services and pay for that backlog of projects is a 60% city property tax increase. Now consider 60% city property tax increase on your newly revised property valuation. It's a huge amount of money. The income tax, the 1% income tax, if it's passed, will be able to levy 1% tax on the income of non-residents who work here. Our residents who work in other cities will get full credit for that. We don't have to pay a penny more. Our residents with tax-exempt income, our retirees, our military, anyone on interest, dividends, capital gains, any type of 1099-R income, state law says you can't tax that. A huge number of people this would impact. We do have residents that live elsewhere not being taxed, or live here and not being taxed, but they have to pay a small amount, up to 1%, but offset by that property tax reduction in savings. But again, that we pay for it, and as a community, it would cost us 1/3 less because the non-residents who work here would be paying for their share of it. It's a huge savings to our community to have this income tax. If it doesn't pass, that is a problem, because then these things that we value here, that brought us here in the first place, they can't be afforded. It just can't be maintained, and so we want our streets and bridges and roads and sidewalks maintained. Whenever somebody asks, why didn't the city finish that sidewalk? It's because there was no money left. Why didn't the city repave the whole street rather than just patchwork it, or to a point? Because there was no money left. Why didn't the city do this? Why? They're always asking these questions, and the answer is because it needs an income tax with a property tax reduction, but the people don't want that, and so people, they know what they need, but they don't do what it takes to get there. And so those are the challenges that the city has going forward. We want our police department to be able to be Beavercreek's finest and be out there when something bad happens. We want our street crews to be out there repairing these roads. We want our street crews out there putting down salt in the wintertime when it snows. I mean, there's all these things that we want, but these things cost money. I can't imagine the public wanting to pay 30% more for a product or service than they have to, when all they gotta do is change the way that the income is generated, and we won't have these problems with our streets, with our police, with our parks that we see happening to neighboring communities whose residents don't pass property tax levies or income tax levies that will fund those services that they want. This is a fairly, from a financial and from a tax point of view, this is a very, very easy decision that you make every day of your lives when you buy a house, when you buy a car, when you buy groceries or clothes. You use this same logic. If we could get rid of the tax word, that four-letter word, tax, because people stop thinking logically when they hear the word tax. You're simply buying a service. You're paying for your road to be fixed. It's a product that you're purchasing. You're paying for a service. The police officer, you're paying for that. Parks and Rec, you're paying for a swing set or for a jogging path. This is nothing new, but you put the word tax before it, and people change the way they think, and that's a problem.
I understand. And, when we talk tax, some people have, and it has been said that we're going to be taxing lemonade stands. And other, kids that are selling things. Is that the case?
Well, what happens here, and this was very unfortunate, when levies were on the ballot before, you didn't have to tax minors. But due to such efforts to not have income taxes, the state of Ohio closed that rule. It closed it. You now have to tax any income that's earned in the city. Now, to be fully informed about this, anybody that has a legitimate lemonade stand is going to be paying federal and state taxes already. The threshold for Beavercreek for collecting revenue on lemonade stands or some kid mowing the lawns for a side job is $1,000. If they earn less than $1,000, there's no tax on that. That's a limit. But they would have already been filing federal taxes and state taxes already anyway due to thresholds, or their parents would have for them, including their income in that. So Beavercreek here now, there are 2 cities in this region that already tax minors' income, and there are many cities that tax the income of under 16-year-olds. And so this is not unusual, but the city of Beavercreek, due to the residents, the voters waiting so long, the state of Ohio closed that option of being able to exempt the income of minors from taxation. So again, the city would have liked to have done that, but state law now prohibits that.
Okay, so the city is dictated to by the Ohio Revised Code as well as federal requirements.
Well, in this case, it's Ohio Revised Code. Ohio Revised Code determines what cities can do. Cities can only tax earned income, sweepstakes and lottery type gambling winnings, and net profits from businesses. And that's it. As part of the 2014 law that was passed and signed by the Governor Kasich and put into place January 1st, 2016, as part of tax uniformity to ensure that all cities have the same tax base, that limitation went on everyone in the state. And so that is where we are now. We can't tax anything else. And again, you can't, a city cannot allow or permit what the state has prohibited. So if the state prohibits something, cities can't go along with it. Cities can't have sales taxes. Our city would love to have a small sales tax of about like 0.5% due to the green and the Mall of Fairfield Commons and all that we have. Yeah. But the state said you can't do that. Other people say that we should have consumption taxes only. The state prohibits those. There's a long list of things the state prohibits in the Ohio Revised Code. So things we would have liked to have done, the state says no to. And some people have told me, well, you should do it anyway. Forget the state, do it. Well, that's just not practical. You can't do that. And so this income tax is tailored in a way that because it does tax income, we give tax credits to as many people as the law allows. Any resident of Beavercreek who works in a city that already taxes their income, we give them a tax credit up to Beavercreek's tax rate 1%, so they're not taxed double. As I mentioned, those are tax exempt income won't be taxed, and those who are taxed for the first time will receive that property tax reduction so that it offsets much of theirs. No one in Beavercreek will pay the full 1% because of income tax credits or their property tax reductions. There is always some offset with businesses. There is a net profits tax, which allows them to take the same Schedule C, E, or F deductions they would on the federal form, or if they're a non-individual business, they would take the federal adjusted gross income. If they have a net operating loss, they can carry that forward up to 5 years. And commercial property also gets the property tax reduction, as well as the commitment from the city not to levy future property taxes. And for businesses that might be concerned about this, there is also tax credits for businesses, job creation tax credits, and job retention tax credits, such that they can drive their tax liability down to zero, exactly where it is right now with no income tax. They can do that. So this benefits everyone. It benefits most people immediately when the income tax would start in January 1st, 2022. But in a few years, as fewer and fewer property taxes would be levied, more and more people would get the effective tax benefit from this. This would be great for the city going forward. And again, I've yet to hear a legitimate concern about the tax portion of this on some failure in the tax design that it won't work as.
Well, there are those that have said that, yeah, we can go with this tax, and you say that we're going to correspondingly reduce our property taxes, but that they don't trust the government.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those folks?
Yeah, most of them don't understand taxation. Governments tax to cover public service costs. The income tax itself will do that. What they're going from, all cities start off with a very low income tax and a very low property tax. And over time, they grow. There's no opportunity to reduce one because they're all growing from zero, from one.
Mm-hmm.
Beavercreek is the only one that has let property taxes get extraordinarily high. As the income tax base grows and brings in more revenue, there will no need to have such a high property tax out there. There will be no need. It'll be easy to be able to reduce it. The income taxes will bring in an estimated $12.5 million the first year. The regional income tax agency tells us to only expect 80% of that for people that are delayed or estimated taxes being later. Just the first year, there'll be over a 50% increase in revenue. Plus that 3.4 mil levy that the city has committed to letting expire will fall off the books. So even property taxes will decrease without doing anything, just having the income tax. And so already there'll be a benefit. The very first year, our benefit Beavercreek community will pay 33% less for these same for services. Those who say it won't happen, again, that is not the way cities do with taxes. Cities collect taxes to pay for services. Those property taxes won't be needed anymore because the income taxes will bring in sufficient revenue to cover those additional services. Again, this is also one reason why you vote people into office. If they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, you vote them out of office. You don't make the entire community suffer for things like this. This will be on the books that the city of Beavercreek said if it had an income tax, it would reduce property taxes, city tax by 3.4 mils, and then from then on, as the revenue increased, would decrease more property. It's on the books. The city has said so. That is the way cities work, and it's happened before. Years ago, in the mid-90s, when the city of Huber Heights went to increase its income tax to the people, they committed to reducing property taxes, and they did. A decade before that, when the city of West Carrollton went to increase income taxes, they committed to reduce property taxes, and it did by almost 50%. It was incredible. And so in all this time, Beavercreek, with no income tax, its property taxes have climbed to a higher level, that it collects more property taxes than any city in the Beavercreek counties, and more than Dayton and Kettering combined. It will not be a difficult thing to allow those property taxes to get lower as more income tax dollars come in. So again, some people want an ironclad absolute guarantee. I don't know, life is not that way. Revenue from income taxes will be sufficient to allow the decrease in property taxes. And it's just a mathematical equation. Again, it's that simple, and it'll happen.
And is it fair to say that this earned income tax would take the burden off of Beavercreek seniors on the property tax side?
It certainly would. Many states have that. 19 states have it built into their state tax code to offer property tax relief from its homeowners that are 65 or older. They do that. They understand this problem. The state of Ohio does give a homestead exemption, $25,000, but that's a small amount of money. You have to remember that the median home value in Beavercreek is now over $220,000. So having a $25,000 decrease is not all that much. Again, we are squeezing people out of their homes by having such high property tax. So yes, this is the only way this can be done to give some property tax relief to our seniors. And some view that as a bad thing. Some really look at that as a terrible thing. But again, we would be getting that revenue from non-residents who work here in order to offer our residents tax relief. I think it's a great thing that Beavercreek residents want to age in place. That is a positive these days. Those who think that's a negative, I don't understand that thinking. We want people to stay here. We want grandparents to be near their kids and not have to move away. We want that family nucleus to stay together, to be close to each other. Those are positive aspects of things that the Beavercreek, this income tax would help. Some cities don't do this. Many cities don't do this and have gentrification that forces its elderly people out because they can't afford to live there. That's not a good thing to do. No one should want that to happen or try to do that. This does away with that, and so it helps people live in their homes. It reduces, not just for the seniors, but we have a large transient military community here. According to state law, you don't tax military income. We want our military to be here. It's a very, very positive aspect of our community that the military can be here, contribute to our community, and this income tax or lower property taxes will help promote that too.
Well, let's build on that in closing. Let's talk about the how Beavercreek, I mean, you've lived here for quite a while. You were the former mayor, so you've got insight. What could Beavercreek look like with that earned income tax passed? You've already talked about the effect on seniors and the family nucleus. What else will that earned income tax do for this city looking 3-5 years down the road?
Yeah, 3-5 years is short. The city right now can't do long-range planning because it has no long-range funding source. It can only do planning 2 or 3 or up to 5 years at a time because that's as long as the funding lasts for. With this income tax, the city of Beavercreek could look out at those things, at our roads right now that simply can't handle this growth. And it's not just the growth due to the Beavercreek community growing. We have communities around us that are growing that traverse through Beavercreek to get to Beavercreek jobs or to the base or other areas. They add burden to our infrastructure, to our congestion that requires us to maintain that. And right now we have to maintain that totally on the backs of our property owners. Whereas with an income tax that could be done with the non-residents who work here with their support too, paying income taxes to Beavercreek. This city right now, and its, as I mentioned, the street department would look so much better. Beavercreek right now maintains its roads, it improves its roads at about $2 million per year. City of Kettering is able to commit 10 times that amount to maintaining its community's roads. And it's just an incredible difference. When you look around, you can see all the good work they're doing. Ours, we're struggling. So our street network could look so much better. Those of our residents and neighborhoods who want street lighting in their neighborhoods, if they want it, excuse me, they can have it. Right now, it can't afford it. Those of our residents who want tornado sirens, right now can't afford it. They could have it. Those of our residents who want their sidewalks finished, connected to the bike paths, so their kids can have safe routes to school. That would be great. Right now, city can't do that. So as you look forward, all the things that are in the can't do list right now would be completed, or at least you would have a schedule for them completed. We have to remember, this has taken 40 years for us to get here. With that 200 million backlog and a 3.6 mil levy, which generates $5 million a year, 5 million into 200 million, it would still take 40 years to get this done. We're talking about some real long-range planning here. That's what the city of Beavercreek is going to look like, not just a 3 to 5 year plan, but a 20 to 40 year plan. And that involves all of our corridors, the Indian Ripple corridor, the Dayton Xenia corridor, the Kemp Road corridor, the Pentagon Boulevard corridor. The state of Ohio and federal government are looking at turning the I-675 and Grange Hall Road intersection up near the base into a full-fledged cloverleaf intersection. Beavercreek infrastructure would not be able to handle that without additional revenue to update Beavercreek streets in that area. Again, as you're looking out 10, 20, 30, 40 years, this provides revenue for that. The flooding and drainage and erosion problems that occur up and down Grange Hall Road right now, this would provide funding to remedy all those problems. Grange Hall Road, all the way from Pentagon Boulevard at the north, all the way down to this Beavercreek near Sugartown Road, floods all the time. Tonawanda Trail floods all the time, and that's in the southern part of Beavercreek. We have so much flooding every spring that happens. The parts of the city flood for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. With a city like Beavercreek, that should not be happening. And so everything from our streets to our police department needs more officers. Again, one police officer per 1,000 residents is no longer enough. We're having enough police calls, it's growing enough that we need to have better response times at a growing police department. Our parks, again, as we grow, residents want more green space, they want more parks. Rotary Park, we just recently received Rotary Park from the township because they could no longer afford it. We have that now. Lafino Park that we have, all of these assets that we have, we can maintain so much better, improve the quality of life of our residents. Our city need not become a sterile, antiseptic, Spartan community like it would become without additional revenue, and this income tax provides that revenue, again, at lower cost to our residents because non-residents are paying their share of the bill. So this works for the city, this works for residents, this works for businesses. I don't see why anybody would be against it, but again, we just need to get the word out there more of the value this provides for our community.
Okay, well, Brian, thanks for taking time to answer our questions.